Thank you so very much for joining me again today on the Elite Legal Landlords platform. Today we continue our Tenant Fees Act 2019 series, commonly referred to as the Tenant Fees Ban. In particular, we discuss tenancy deposits and the impact of the Tenant Fees Act thereon. I am your legal friend, Julie Condliffe, commonly referred to as the Legal Diva. I don't know why. I am also a landlord. I am a solicitor. All in all, I'm passionate about property. I'm here to help you understand your legal obligations to ensure that you don't end up losing money. We're here to make money, not lose money, because what you do not know could cost you. Have you joined the Elite Legal Landlords platform yet? If you haven't, I would definitely encourage you to do so. The details are at the bottom of the screen. It's an awesome, absolutely incredible networking platform where you get to interact with like-minded people. You get educated, empowered, and equipped to prosper through property. Back into the subject matter at hand, we are discussing tenancy deposits, in particular the impact of the Tenant Fees Act of 2019. We did actually do a video on tenancy deposits generally. I would encourage you to watch it if you haven't already done so. I will put the details at the bottom of the screen. Tenancy deposits are very, very important from a mandatory perspective, in the sense that since April 2007, a landlord is required to join a tenancy deposit scheme on the creation of an assured short-hold tenancy. So make sure that you comply with those specific regulations. It's 2004 Housing Act, 2 on 3 sections. They're the most important ones. But in summary, you've got to protect the deposit and provide prescribed information. I will not be discussing that today, but it's just a gentle reminder for those who haven't watched the other video. We are talking about the impact of the Tenancy Fees Ban, the Tenant Fees Act 2015 on the deposit requirements. So the impact applies to holding deposits, and it also applies to security deposits. Holding deposits are just holding deposits. I don't need to get into any huge detail about that. Tenancy deposits, again, pretty straightforward. A refundable payment payable by a tenant as security in case of damage to the property. The 2019 Act limits the amount that can be charged to a tenant. It also defines specific timescales. Failure to comply with the stipulated requirements would then have serious implications. By way of example, a landlord will not be able to evict a tenant without complying with that statutory instrument. I will discuss this in a lot more detail during our webinar, so I'm hoping you can join. If you haven't already registered, the details are at the bottom of the screen. Just pop your name, email address and phone number, and we will let you know when the next webinar is, and hopefully you can join us. So in terms of holding deposits, we've got Linda, who paid £250 by way of holding deposit on the 10th of June 2019. She paid these to Johnson's Lettings, who then told her on the 25th of June that they did not want to let the property to her because they just didn't like her. These things do happen, nothing personal. I'm just kidding. The landlord indicated that he'd found another tenant, so regrettably he could not continue with this particular tenancy to Linda. Linda was distraught, but she did want to move on very, very quickly because she was expecting a baby in the next few weeks. Johnson's Lettings continued to hold the deposits without any explanation or any form of communication whatsoever. This left Linda with no choice but to go to a local firm of solicitors. The solicitors then explained to her the circumstances under which a landlord or agent is entitled to retain a holding deposit. They explained to her that Johnson's Lettings were entitled to hold the deposits for a period of 15 days unless otherwise agreed. They further explained that there were limited circumstances in which the landlord or letting agent could retain the deposit. For example, if lender had failed the right to rent check, if lender had unilaterally withdrawn from the property, if lender had failed to take all reasonable steps to enter into a tenancy agreement, if lender had provided false or misleading information. Because lender had not breached any of these stipulations, it meant that Johnson's lettings were being very naughty. They were in breach of the 2019 Act. Moving on to tenancy deposits. Tenancy deposits are now capped at 5 weeks' rent, where the annual rent is less than £50,000. If the annual rent is above £50,000, then a landlord could be entitled to up to 6 weeks' rent. Anything over those figures would be prohibited payments. I would encourage you to be careful when you're taking joint tenancies or joint tenants. In summary, let's just say you are taking a couple, you can't charge them individually. Using Linda's example, she paid £250 as a holding deposit. Let's just say she uses that as a deposit. You cannot then charge her partner an additional £250 because they're both under the same tenancy. The situation would be different if it was a HMO, and if perhaps Linda was taking one room and the partner was taking another room on different tenancies. So just be mindful of that. Again, I'll discuss this in a lot more detail during the webinar. The cap on deposits will apply to all new tenancies from the 1st of June 2019. As discussed previously, this is your assured short-haul tenancies. It's also inclusive of student lets and licenses to occupy. The fixed term contracts are also under this particular provision. Now, the one thing to seriously consider is if you had a fixed term contract that then expired after the 1st of June 2019, and if you're renewing it for another fixed term, regardless of the fact that the original fixed term started prior to the 1st of June 2019, you will need to comply with the cap. You will need to comply with the Tenancy Fees Act, the cap on the deposits. You can't take more than 5 weeks if it's under £50,000, or if it's over, you cannot take more than 6 weeks. So if you take more, then of course you'll be in legal trouble. The last point to note is if your tenancy was prior to the 1st of June 2019, worry not in terms of any overpayments that were made. If your tenant paid perhaps 2 months worth of deposit or more than what is now permissible under the Tenant Fees Act, you've still got the transitional period until June 2020. In fact, as long as the tenancy continues, you don't have an obligation to refund the deposit, as it were. But if the tenancy is then terminated or renewed to a fixed term, then that would be different. I hope you found this insightful. As always, please do feel free to let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you would like for me to cover. And I hope you can join me on the Elite Legal Landlords website. I wish you all the best in your property investment journey.